Hello, this is Ari Good, and this presentation is about the UDRP Domain Name Disputes, Uniform Dispute Resolution Policy. This is about preventing cyber squatting on the web. So what is the UDRP, or Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy? Well, this is an administrative proceeding which is created by ICANN. Now, ICANN is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, and it's the organization that's responsible for the smooth operation of the internet, including the registration of domain names. And part of what they do as well is they have this procedure called the UDRP, which allows trademark owners to protect their intellectual property online, to protect them against cyber squatting and misuse and abuse of the domain name process and procedure. Now, who needs the UDRP, or why would anybody care? Okay, well, let's say that you have a domain name or a brand that you use in your business. It's the name of your business, it's your slogan, it's a campaign that you've run or created as part of your marketing. And somebody goes out and takes that word or phrase and copies that and uses that to create a domain name. They go ahead and they register a domain, assuming that the domain is available. However, that domain, even though it was available, impedes or infringes on your intellectual property. They then go out and use that domain name in bad faith. So they use it to point people towards things that are unrelated, or they use it to sell counterfeit or competitive goods, or any number of other situations that indicate that rather than coming up with a domain name that is free and fair, and rather than coming up with it independently, they targeted you, your brand, and your intellectual property, and they're looking to piggyback off your goodwill. So what's the significance of that? Well, you could lose internet traffic. There could be damage to your brand or your goodwill. People might think that they're looking at your site when they're actually looking at the domain, the cybersquatters site, and ultimately a loss of business. So what do you have to do if you want to capture a domain name that is infringing on your brand? Well, you've got to file a UDRP complaint, and in that complaint you've got to establish three principal elements. So paraphrased here, you have to first establish that the domain name is confusingly similar to your brand or mark in which you have rights. Now, while having a registered trademark in your brand is helpful and gives you presumptive conclusion that you have rights in that name, you don't necessarily need to have a registered trademark. That's a common misconception, that if you don't have a registered trademark in the word or words that you're trying to protect, you can't file a UDRP complaint. That's not true. You can have common law trademark rights in your name or brand, provided that that word or words has secondary meaning. And what that means in English basically is that it has brain space, so that people know you as Pepsi or Bob's Pet Supply Store or Natasha's Spa or what have you. If that has acquired secondary meaning, if you've had that brand for a long time and people know you as such, you can have secondary meaning and still have rights in that name. Second, the registrant has to show, or you have to show, but the registrant ultimately has to provide information and evidence that they lack rights or legitimate interests in that domain. So, put another way, you've got to be able to show that the registrant did not have an independent manner of coming up with registering that domain that didn't target your intellectual property. You've got to establish that they do not have legitimate rights in using that word or phrase. And third, you've got to establish bad faith, which we touched on briefly before, that they're using it for nefarious purposes. And what the panels will do, what the referees will do, is they will take a look at all the facts and circumstances surrounding why the registrant registered the domain, the types of words that are being used, what they mean, and how they're being used, whether for a parking page or to direct traffic elsewhere. So let's talk about a few examples. Well, one type of cyber squatting is called typo squatting. Now, in this case, the domain will be missing a character, add a character, or substitute a character of your name or brand. So some examples have included people going out and registering Walgreen rather than Walgreens, using the word Comerica with a 0 for the O in the bank brand. Or there was a case involving Schneider Electric where they substituted the I and the E, which is a very common mistake. Twitter using a Turkish I instead of the Roman alphabet I. So in other words, what these typo squatting cases are about are people going out and trying to take advantage of internet users' mistakes. Common mistakes that you can make while typing in a word that you think is going to go to one website, but in fact it goes to the typo squatter's site. Another type of cyber squatting deals with adding words to an existing brand. So the well-known social networking site LinkedIn, there was a case in which a registrant registered LinkedIn jobs and then proceeded to institute a campaign of fraudulently sending job notices to people and asking for application fees and so forth. Another case involved adding my to my CVS, the well-known pharmacy store, and those resulted in transfer of the domain names back to the complainant. Third, this doesn't necessarily need to be the name of your business. It can be a campaign that you've put time and energy into. So for example, the well-known talk show host Oprah Winfrey was considering a agricultural project. Somebody caught wind of it and tried to register Oprah's farm ahead of her. She complained and the domain was transferred back to her. The country of Malta had long put resources into a campaign for Finance Malta to attract business to that country. Obviously, Finance Malta is not the name of the country, but it was through print advertising, through online advertising, through word of mouth, and through a lot of time, effort, and money. They had put time and effort into creating this campaign called Finance Malta, which somebody went out and tried to register unsuccessfully. So what are the procedures? Well, we talked a little bit about who is the complainant, meaning you if you believe that you are suffering cyber squatting. And the respondent is the party that registered the domain. They need to respond to your UDRP complaint. Now, this is a single round of pleading. So unlike in a court procedure, this administrative proceeding is sort of a one and done. For that reason, it's very important to get everything correct up front and include all the evidence that you believe supports your case. The UDRP complaints can, sometimes the panels or referees, which can be either 1 or 3 people, can ask for additional information, but it's at their discretion. Now, some of the ways in which UDRP procedures differ from court proceedings is that your remedies are limited to transfer or cancellation of the domain. Now, typically transferring the domain to your possession is going to be your better option so that nobody else can pick it up and misuse it to collect traffic. Filing fees for UDRP complaints start at $1,500 for up to 5 disputed domains. Now, a lot of people ask, do I need a lawyer to file a UDRP complaint? You do not. However, a lawyer can definitely be instrumental in your success in filing a UDRP complaint against cyber squatters. This is because, as I mentioned, it's important to articulate these arguments and know exactly how to word the complaint so that you present your best case and your best evidence. This is a one-shot deal, as I mentioned, so it's important to get it right the first time. Now, the legal fees for a competent practitioner to file a UDRP complaint will range from $2,500 to $5,000, something in that range. There's also something called reverse domain name hijacking. So do bear in mind that just because you own a brand or a series of words that are part of your company does not give you rights over the entire English language. People can still go out and register domain names that may be similar, if not confusingly similar, to your domain, provided they have rights and legitimate interests in that domain and they're not operating in bad faith. So if a complainant is too aggressive, they can be accused in their UDRP proceeding of what's called reverse domain name hijacking, trying to capture a scope of words that they don't have entitlement to, and there can be penalties and damages for that in court. If you believe that you have suffered cyber squatting and that somebody is infringing on your intellectual property, do give us a call or go to our website, goodattorneysatlaw.com. I'd be very happy to give you a complimentary case evaluation. I'll take a look at your domain and your brand and the domain that you believe is cyber squatting on your intellectual property, and give you an evaluation of the case. So call us at 877-771-1131. Go to goodattorneysatlaw.com to begin. Thank you very much.